content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today, so we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live, the greatest show on all of YouTube in the mornings. I'm excited for today. As you guys have noticed, some of you who watched the show for a while, it is day 2 of No Hat Tim. And, I think I shocked the entire internet because yesterday I glitched out YouTube, where for most of the show yesterday, we had more likes than we had viewers. And then this morning, Twitter just couldn't handle it either, and it decided to shut down, all because I decided not to wear a hat. So we're going to see how this works out. I don't know if you guys can tell, but something else is different about today, and that is that I am standing, so I can move very easily throughout the show. I don't know if they saw that or not, because I don't know if we're in the tight frame yet here or not. But I'm excited about today. First of all, no hat. Second of all, I am standing. Third of all, I'm joined by two of my I'm moving you guys up into top 15.
Whoa!
2 of my top 15 favorite people in the entire world. I got T-Shroom to my right. I got my technical director, Smay the Turtle King, sitting kind of catty corner in front of me. How are you gentlemen doing this morning? What's going on?
Well, now that I found out that I'm in Tim's top 15, I'm doing way better than I deserve.
That's right.
You guys are every day. You just take another step up.
Yeah.
I would like to say something before we get started. I'm feeling great.
Good.
As
how about you,
in-
T-Shroom? How you feeling?
Oh, well, I wasn't done.
Well, I got to make sure I find out how he's feeling.
He said better
I'm
than he
feeling
deserved.
better than I deserve.
There we go again. There we go. I didn't catch
I
it this time.
feel great. And you know what I like to do, guys, when I feel great?
Read green names?
Wow.
That's exactly right.
Wow,
All right,
I've
so I'm
guessed
gonna
that
read
every time.
I'm gonna read green. It's crazy. Elliot Locke, Mitch Shaw. Who else we got here? We got Gia S. We got Crypto Smitty. That's a new one. Who else we got here? We got a lot of people chatting back and forth. I need to find some new names here. Win Peoples. Who else we got here? Let's see here. Agent Gold. Adam Rourke. Wow, I love all of you guys. You guys are the best. Matt C. Crypto Set Guy. Who else we got here? We got Tristan Williams. Who else we got here? I'm starting to run out of names here. Kenny R, Philly fan 61. Who else we got here? Grand Roofing Incorporated. Adam Maville, Dennis. Oh my gosh, I'm out of breath saying all these names. I love all of you guys. Anyways,
Yes.
back to you, Tim.
Back to me. Well, guys, it's going to be a great show today. Got to fix my mic. It's a little bit different standing now. But I want to just thank every single one of you guys for watching. Let's see if we can do it again where we glitch out YouTube and we get more likes than we even have viewers. But you know what contributes to that? When every single one of you guys out there watching goes ahead and smashes that like button. And if you're new, go ahead and subscribe as well, because I like it when you do that. So that's one reason why you should do it.
You know who else likes it?
Who else likes it? You.
I like it.
Oh, that's true.
like it.
Yes. Well, guys, we got a very, very, very good show. We are joined by Wendy O. I have a full schedule today, and I'm very excited to get Wendy O on this channel here in just a couple of minutes. But guess what the rest of my schedule looks like today? This will be, if I'm able to speak tomorrow, I will be very impressed with even myself, because I had the show this morning. Then I'm going to be recording our afternoon video here after the show is over. Then I'm going on with Wendy O. We're going to be doing market talks over on Cointelegraph. That you want to make sure you go check that one out. Then later this afternoon, I have to shoot some more content for Club DeFi, followed up by being on my first ever appearance of Around the Blockchain at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then on Debate Crypto tonight at 7:30, I'm going to be going on that show as well. So be praying for my voice. Be praying for the price of Bitcoin, make things interesting for the rest of the day. Of course, this show is going to be talking, it's day 2 since our CPI numbers have come out. Bitcoin's holding up. It's holding strong. I would have thought it would have happened a little sooner with the dip. I'm not ready to say that I'm going away from my prediction that we will be dipping down further, but I'm proud of Bitcoin. It is holding up very strong. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to look at a couple of stories that talk about that. But today's a little bit different, and Wendy is already here, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Wendy O onto the channel, and we're going to go through our market pulse with Wendy O and then get her take on the market of what's happening after those CPI numbers have come out. So, Wendy, you hear me?
I sure do. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to chat, hang out, love Team Jebb, love Jebb's community, so happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I love your background with the baby Yodas. We had one of those and then my dog Beamer found it and tore it to shreds. But I love those. What was the show called?
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Not a Star Wars guy like Smay, but I did like that show.
How
Yeah.
dare you?
Well, we're going to jump, Wendy, we're going to go through some articles here, and I'm going to have T-Stream to kind of introduce those, and I want to hear your take on almost every single one of them. If you don't have a take, you don't have to give it. But the first one we're talking about, Polygon joins Disney in the accelerator program to develop an AR, NFT, and AI experience. What's happening with that, T-Stream?
Yeah, well, if you want to go to my screen, I will explain exactly that. So Polygon joins Disney's accelerator program to develop AR, NFTs, and AI experiences. The Ethereum scaling tool is one of 6 companies selected by the media and entertainment giant to be part of its new program. So it's really, really cool. Got a great shot of the Disney Princess Castle there. Really, really fun. Yeah, so the Ethereum scaling tool is continuing to scale its Web3 infrastructure via a new project with media conglomerate Walt Disney Company, very large company.
Speaking of Mandalorian and Star Wars,
exactly,
in there.
right there, ticker DIS. Polygon is one of 6 companies selected to participate in Disney's 2022 Accelerator Program, a business and development program designed to spur the growth of innovative companies around the world, according to a statement made by Disney. So it's all looking good. This is going to be a really good partnership. And the price of Matic, Polygon's native token, was up 5.7% over the last 24 hours on that news, presumably. It's a really, really big partnership for Polygon.
Yeah.
And it's a big win for crypto here. We needed a win. We needed a win because we've had such bad press from all the lending platforms. This was really good. Almost magical, one could say.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah,
let's
throw it to Wendy. So Wendy, I don't even know if I don't know if you saw that or not. I know, first of all, you're out there in California, out with Walt, the Disneyland. We got Disney World here. You got the land. You're also a bigger NFT influencer than us. What are your thoughts about this news coming out of Polygon?
Well, first off, I have a really large bag of Polygon. I've had it since I think 2019. I love the project. I like what they're doing. I think that it makes utilizing Ethereum a little bit easier and more affordable. Well, not necessarily easier, but to hear news like this, I think it's important to note because they're specifically looking at Matic Polygon because they want to merge over into the NFT world. And that's going to be a key piece of information. A lot of people don't like NFTs. They think they're scams. They're not really understanding the underlying technology. And that's okay because it's still very, very early when it comes to NFTs. So what a lot of people think is like, I could just right click this and it's mine. And yeah, you can right click an image. That's 100%, but you can't necessarily sell it for whatever the original piece is going for. And we're going to be seeing a lot of traditional companies like Disney and a lot of other ones merge over to the NFT market. And the reason why these big companies are doing it is because I feel like they don't necessarily know if this is going to be the next big thing or not. We know it's going to be the next big thing, but they're doing it as some sort of hedge. And a lot of people also don't understand that there's so much more than just an actual image. There's licensing rights, there's merchandising rights, there's IP rights, there's all of these different little subgroups within that actual NFT. And I really, really think that NFT, metaverse, Web3, play to earn, those are going to be the plays that we're going to see for the next bull run. And I'm not telling you to ape into any type of NFT project. What I'm telling you to do is start paying attention to who's building, what partnerships are being done, where they do their marketing, who are they working with? What is their end goal? And start focusing and educating yourself on these. So when the next bull comes, you're going to be prepared and you're going to be well-versed enough to make good financial decisions in the NFT market.
That's really good take there, Wendy. Thank you for giving that to us. We got a couple stories. I'm going to skip one of them, T-Shirt, because I'm going to kind of use that to transition.
Sure.
The next one we had here was let's see, Celsius. So this is one of the bigger stories coming out on the day. Celsius becomes the 3rd major crypto firm in 2 weeks to file for bankruptcy. And I don't know, is there anything specifically in the article we need to talk about, T-Shirt, or can we just go ahead and start opening up that can of worms and talk about that?
Yeah, there's a couple figures that are helpful to know. The New Jersey-based firm filed bankruptcy under Chapter 11 with the Southern Court District of New York, stating it had $167 million in assets on hand to fund operations during restructuring. So, and then a quote from Alex Mashinsky: "I'm confident that when we look back at the history of Celsius, we will see this as a defining moment." So that's an interesting quote. I don't know if he means that to the positive or the negative side, but that's his quote. So yeah, how about it?
Yeah, we've been covering this news obviously since it started with Celsius, the ups and downs, the confusions, what's actually happening, and it does look like, again, this is going to be, I think this is not very unsurprising that they're finally filing for bankruptcy, but I do think this dashes a couple people's hopes that we're still holding out there to get their money back from Celsius. But Wendy O, what is your take on this whole Celsius situation? I haven't ever got to talk to you about it, so I'd love to hear your entire take, and I'd love our audience to hear it as well.
So unfortunately, because of a lot of different DeFi protocols in crypto, people get greedy because there's big returns that can't be made. And a lot of people kind of got caught up with the Three Arrows Capital thing. I didn't even know that they were loaning out or doing those types of large deals. And then a lot of people also got hit with Terra Luna because Anchor Protocol was giving back 20%, which technically when you're looking at DeFi protocols or any type of earning in crypto, 20% really necessarily isn't a whole lot, because we've seen that some that are 500%, 1,000%, 100%, whatever it may be. So a lot of people kind of put trust in this, which I totally get. I understand that. But at the same time, I don't think we did a good enough job at practicing risk management, because I've got funds on Voyager and I've got funds on Celsius, and I'm okay with losing that amount because I also lost money on Cryptopia and some other crypto exchanges that went down. So when we take a look at what's happening, one of the interesting things that we did see in regards to Celsius is we literally saw the team fight for their life on chain.
Yes.
And that's a transparency thing. Like, even like whatever, all of the details about Alex and the way he operated the business and, other different impacts. I'm not discounting those. I'm not saying that they're right. I'm not giving them a pass. What I am saying is, though, to me, it was so wild to see these teams fighting on chain, paying their debts off, doing all of these things, because this type of stuff happens. Poor financial decisions happen in traditional companies also all the time. We just don't hear about it, especially in the banking industry or traditional finance and mortgage industry. But people make bad calls. And unfortunately, it had to be in crypto that we have all of this turmoil that's happening. I will say is that we did talk about on my show about, Alex reconciling all the debts and then probably filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So is this a good thing or not? Well, it's debatable. Because they want to go ahead and restructure the company, I think this could be a positive thing. So people do have a chance to actually get their funds back, myself included, my mom, my cousin, other people that I know. So that's a good positive thing.
Yeah.
But then it comes to, when are we going to get our funds back? We don't know. And I think we kind of have to look to what Voyager's doing and hope that we're going to have some sort of similarities over there. And now that this is actually in the court system, I think it will get, we'll see a lot more transparency. We'll have a better idea of what's going on. And in addition, we will also get some more clarity as to what's going to happen with the funds and when this is going to happen. It might not be what everybody wants or expects. And I understand the frustration there, because it's a really, really terrible thing. But at the same time, we don't have control.
Yeah.
And at least there is some sort of form of recourse, as opposed to some of the other crypto exchanges, the smaller ones that went down and people weren't able to get their funds, or if you were involved in a rug pull or whatnot. So at least there is a little bit of silver lining with this particular story.
Yeah, no, and one of the biggest stories of that whole thing is Alex Mashinsky himself. So I want to kind of, before we transition into Bitcoin specifically, because I know I wanted to get your opinion over there as well. What is your opinion of Alex Mashinsky? Can he stay in control, or do you think that Celsius is going to need a buyer and get away from Alex for it to actually be able to have any success down the road?
Oh, 100%. People don't trust Alex.
Yeah.
I went on to the Celsius platform to do an interview with him, and it was kind of not an interview, but like to talk about the market. And he was on my channel before all this stuff happened. And just by talking to him, he seems like, I feel like he had the best interest at heart to an extent, but he just made really poor financial decisions.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me, because I always try to find the good in people and not just bash them in a negative aspect, but seeing everything kind of play out, it's just really, really unfortunate. So I don't think the company is going to be able to operate with him there. I don't feel like people are interested in dealing with him, especially the way he conducted himself online, with all the fighting with the Bitcoin maximalists, et cetera. So I think that there will need to be some sort of plan that someone else that comes in to potentially purchase Celsius or whatever that may be. We heard rumors about Goldman Sachs. We saw kind of like subtweets from Sam from FTX about that. But then we also saw Simon Dixon, the gentleman that kind of helped with the Bitfinex issue, come in and was very interested in being aggressive about helping the actual customers or the depositors of Celsius to help us. So we'll see how that plays out, and maybe we'll be able to get some more clarity on the financials, and hopefully we have a positive outcome.
Well, thank you so much for those takes, Wendy. Let's go ahead and transition now into some Bitcoin discussion. So I'm going to start off just letting everybody know, in case anyone hadn't checked the charts out this morning, Bitcoin currently is sitting around $19,700. This is, after it kind of dipped that first hour yesterday after the CPI reports came out, it actually went on a short rally where it got up over $20,000. It's on its way back down this morning, but there's not a whole heck of a lot of volume. But before we talk about the CPI numbers and before we talk about where we think Bitcoin is going to be going, Wendy, there was a report that came out. Was this morning, T-Shroom, that we got these reports that the Bitcoin correlation with stocks?
That's correct.
Yeah, so this article came out from, I think we have it on Yahoo, but I think it was actually Bloomberg that did this. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
That Bitcoin's correlation with stocks is near the lowest level of 2022. And May, real quick, you can show my screen so people can see that. This is according to the chart where it's showing the correlation. And so right now, T-Shroom, what is happening to the stock market right now?
It's going down.
It is going down, but Bitcoin is holding on strong right there above, staying above 19.5. I thought it was going to I think it touched below 19,000, then rallied back up over 20. I thought we were going to see some lower 18,000s yesterday. I think that could still be in the cards for later today or even later this week. But Wendy, what is your thoughts about that correlation? Because that has been something that Bitcoin holders have been watching for a very long time. Is it seems like every time the stock market wants to move one way or another, Bitcoin does it as well. But now it does look like it's starting to somewhat separate. What are your thoughts about that issue?
So I'm not a big stock trader. I'm not a big traditional assets trader. I like to focus on Bitcoin and altcoins because I don't really vibe with the stock market and what they do behind the scenes there. I do think that it's interesting that as the market does get more mature, that we're seeing a lot of correlation here, because essentially crypto and Bitcoin was supposed to be that hedge against stocks and the traditional financial banking system and all of that jazz. So I do think that it's interesting, but at the same time, you have to remember, I think that we had like 11 consecutive red weekly candles with Bitcoin as far as volatility goes, which is a lot and was the most ever in history. So considering that aspect, and then considering that stocks are down, then Bitcoin necessarily hasn't dumped yet, I think that that's okay. I am calling for a lot more of a price decrease in the future when we really get deep down in this bear market. But as far as the correlation goes, it's kind of interesting for me to see. And I hope that you guys can enlighten me on why that happens. Because again, I'm not a really big stock trader.
Yeah, I know. So my experience, for those of you who haven't heard it, most people on this channel have, but Wendy, again, you and I think we've said hello to each other down there in Miami during the Bitcoin conference. But other than that, you and I really haven't got to talk that much. I came to this thing completely cold back in the beginning of 2021. I invested in 2020 in Bitcoin on Jebb's advice, but then I didn't really start my education until early 2021. T-Shroom, on the other hand, coming in around the same exact time to the Bitcoin space in 2021, had been spending years in the stock market. So T-Shroom, can you tell us the significance of this correlation so that we can better understand why this is so important to pay attention to?
Sure, yeah. If you go over to my computer, go to my screen, you can see so Bitcoin's on the top, and this is the Invesco QQQ, which is just a ETF of the NASDAQ. So it's really selling off right now, really dumping. And it's that's not good for the stock market. Why is it doing that? It's doing that because we are entering the earnings seasons for the U.S. equities market, and J.P. Morgan has recorded their earnings, and they came out pretty negative. So that's likely going to be the trend of this earnings season in U.S. equities, and it's looking like Bitcoin is holding strong through that. So it's not only been able to hold strong through this Celsius headline, it's also holding strong through earnings, perhaps signaling that it's decoupling. And as we saw with that article from Yahoo Finance, we are seeing a decoupling metric, and that correlation is starting to diminish down below 0.5. So that's really good. I'm not going to get deep into stocks, but I know stocks. I love stocks too. But this isn't about the stock market. It's about the fact that Bitcoin is decoupling from the equities market, which is really good.
Yeah, well, before I throw it back to Wendy, Tisha, I even want to hear your take on that. I mean, we know that at some point we will see a decoupling, a full-out decoupling, where the markets will almost be completely different. Do you think that's the beginning of what's happening right now, or do you think this is just a period of time where it'll decouple and then it'll eventually get back on the same track?
It's tough to say. That's kind of the $1 million question, because that has a lot to do with Bitcoin bottoming. I think once the market sees Bitcoin as the new gold type of deal, then that could be in play. But I think for right now, the stock market is also looking at the fact that it's down close to those 30% lows from its highs, and that historically has been where the stock market has bottomed and then resumed upward. So the stock market, traditional market traders are not thinking that the stock market's going to go too much lower from here. which is a big impact on the decoupling story. So
Yeah.
If the market was to sell off here and break some major resistance or break some major support, then you might see Bitcoin being that gold story. But I think that we've got the summer, and then I think we've even got into the fall before that decoupling really in a major way becomes a significant option. I think right now it's still too early in the bear market to say, at least from my point of view, I'm not saying this definitively,
Right.
to say that the market is going to start seeing Bitcoin as gold and start trading it accordingly as an anti-inflation instrument. Right now, it's just trading like Microsoft. So
Yeah.
but that trend is starting to diminish, and it's starting to trade less and less like Microsoft every day. So that's pretty good.
Well, we will keep you guys posted on as that correlation continues to do its thing, whether it continues to decouple or whether it gets back on the same pace. We'll talk about that in future shows. But Wendy, let's go ahead and dive into it. I know you and I are going to talk a lot more about this over here in a couple of hours on Market Talks on Cointelegraph, but I wanted to hear from you. We got to give our take yesterday on the CPI numbers. Again, it's not playing out exactly how I might have thought, but there's still a lot of time left. What was your initial response and what was your initial thoughts when you saw that 9.1% number given yesterday morning?
I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, during this whole everything that's been happening, we have had people that have made really, really terrible financial choices for a large group of people, and it's been upsetting. And the 9.1% that they reported, I don't even think that's accurate. On CoinDesk TV the other day, they showed, I believe it was Adam, he showed a chart that kind of like, I guess back in the 80s, the way that they used to calculate the CPI was a lot different than the way that they do now. And they continue to change that type of equation or what things that they're taking into account. They don't change the equation, they're changing into what they take into account. And by doing so, it manipulates the numbers. And if you look at the way that they used to calculate the CPI back in the 80s, the CPI report would have been a lot higher percentage-wise than the actual 9.1%, which is very, very interesting. So it feels like that they just keep modifying and adjusting things to make them look like they're doing their job and make them look like they're doing things correctly, but they're really not. I mean, if you're somebody that likes to get out in public, you go to the grocery store, you fill up your own gas, you have a family, you go shopping, you like to go on outings, whatever, you're going to see a big difference. Like by me, a lot of the stores are empty. We don't have a lot of supply of things on the store because of all these different production facilities are not working the way that they were post panorama. And you're seeing the prices of things absolutely skyrocket. People don't have a whole lot of money. And in Los Angeles County, we do still have the rent moratorium happening. So that means people are not paying their rents. I know different people that live in different apartment complexes, and like one or two or maybe five of them out of 100 or 20 or whatever it may be are actually paying their rents because we still have that moratorium happening. And that is also adding to the housing crisis that we're going to have. Like rents are high. A lot of people are having trouble affording to live or even paying their bills. So you're able to see all this stuff in real time. The reports are whatever. I don't really trust them. I don't necessarily believe them because I don't like the way that they aggregate their data together to give those results. But it's really telling if you go out and you kind of pay attention as to real world stuff that's happening, because all that the mainstream media is doing is they're gathering these reports and they're pitching out these headlines, and they're not really accurate as to how general population is living.
Yeah, so it's almost as if what you're trying to say there, Wendy, is the government's not telling us exactly what's happening. That's interesting. That's very interesting. No, even with your take that you just gave, I want to hear your thoughts because I know, there's been a couple people that have made predictions. I know one of them with Gareth Soloway. I've seen him recently discuss how he thinks that this might have been the peak of the inflation numbers, and potentially it could be if exactly what you're saying, if they're kind of fudging some numbers to give us the data points they want us to see so they can continue to do things around the background. Again, my tinfoil hat on right there. That's we'll stay away from that details. But do you think that there's a chance Gareth is correct, or do you see the numbers continuing to climb over the next couple of months?
So there's two ways that I like to look at these things. I like to take into account different people's opinions. I love Gareth. He's a good friend of mine, really, really great trader, really great at the market.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So for him, because he's somebody that's super well versed in trading crypto and trading, traditional assets. He's been doing traditional assets for a really, really long time. I take his opinion into account because it's important, and probably based off of the numbers and based off the reports and based off his experience, I might tend to agree with him. But at the same time, when I'm looking at it from more of a humanitarian aspect, or somebody who's more invested in, like, more concerned about actual people and how people are living, especially the poor and the lower middle class, because that's where I come from.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to say that this is the absolute peak. Like, I don't understand how we've printed all of this money, that we have these food shortages. We don't have people working. The job reports are absolutely ridiculous, and those are not accurate at all. And we're having a housing crisis. I'm not understanding how this is just the peak. Like, I feel like it's going to get a lot worse than this. But of course, you know, there's really great analysts, and, you know, they're talking about all these different numbers. Like, how can the Federal Reserve control inflation when, without doing something with the tax rate, without printing more money, without doing any of that? It just doesn't, mathematically, it doesn't make sense. I don't even think most Americans know how bad of debt we're in, or where we're actually sending all of our taxpayer dollars or our money. So there's part of me that's kind of conflicted on this, because my gut is telling me that I know better, that it's going to continue to get worse. And we do have these people that are very well versed at reading reports and understanding this data, saying this could potentially be the peak. So I'm very, very conflicted here.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it around the table this morning during our planning meeting. There are, you know, in the last month, there have been a couple. I think price of was it gas, T-Shroom, technically has gone down here a little bit. But my thing is, and I was watching a video about this. It was a farmer who was doing the video, so the video had nothing to do with crypto. But the farmer was discussing how they're like, if you think that food prices are already outrageous right now, guess what hasn't even been factored in? What you're buying at the store right now is the cattle and the grain and the produce that was created here 6-7 months ago, and is just now being brought to the market. She was a farmer. She had cattle, and she was talking about how her normal price for, like, I think it was like a month to feed one cow, cost her, I think, a grand total of about, I can't remember what it was, something around like $20-something. So $20 a month she could feed her cattle, so that goes in her price. She was talking about how those prices have gone from where she was spending $20 a month per cattle for all the produce, for all the stuff that she needed. It had jumped up to almost $100. So, like, she was expecting, she said, wait for November, wait for December, when these animals that were just now starting to grow are now coming to the market. Do not be surprised when you go to the grocery store and you're looking at beef be upwards of $30 per pound, chicken upwards of $15, $17 per pound. She said, we haven't even begun to see how bad the food prices will get. And so I'm completely in the same boat as you, Wendy. I don't think that we're anywhere close to the peak. I do heavily respect Gareth as well. As you said, I got to be on a show with him here a month ago. I think he is one of the smartest traders out there in the space. I love, you know, I'm tweeting at him almost daily now, trying to get him to come on the show at some point. He's not responding to me, but if anyone out there can help me out,
I'll drop him a line.
Yeah, but I think, you know, I think there's a chance that, as you kind of started with, because we went in the data direction and we went in the realistic direction. It does sound like with the data direction, the government is going to try to make us see what they want us to see. But I think there's a dose of reality that you mentioned as well. Things are not getting better. It looks like the worst is still ahead of us.
I do have one more thought on this. So my daughter's father, he is an electrical contractor, and he does a lot of commercial, industrial, electrical stuff. And he's had one of the biggest, and he's a small business. I think they have 20 or 25 guys employed. And he actually is able to keep all of his guys employed during the panorama, which I'm super, super happy for him about. But anyways, because he's able to keep those families fed. But one of the things he's saying is the biggest challenge he has is that when he deals with repeat customers that come back that need work done in their office suites, or, you know, they have a separate job that needs to be done, he has to quote them a lot higher of a price because materials are high. Because people forget how expensive copper is, and a lot of these different metals that they actually need to do their job. So these people, when he's sending the bids back, they're like upset. They're like, oh my God, this is 3 times more than what you charged me a year ago. And he's like, unfortunately, I have to do that, because if I charge you the original amount that we, you know, what it was like, you know, 6 months to a year ago, I won't make any money. I can't even pay my guys. I'll actually be under. So we're seeing that in a lot of different fields, and it's not just with food. So as the price for things start to increase, a lot of these small businesses are going to have a really, really, really hard time. And it's scary for me to watch, not just for us, but just for, like, just for all Americans, for all people that are in this country that are trying to improve their quality of life. They're getting up, they're going to work every day, they're out there hustling, they're living right. But I feel like the powers that be have really just let people down, and they're not. And I don't even think that they're able to prepare us for this at all, or even able to help us, because all these stimulus checks that they're giving out, this $100, this $1,000, the $1,200 we're doing in California, people don't understand. It's like hush money. And all that they're doing is saying, you were a good little kid, you're a good little person, so we're just going to give you this. But $1,000 in LA County, I don't even know, like, you can't even rent a room for $1,000 per month. So I'm not even sure what it's very upsetting. It's scary, and doing my best to educate people on this as much as I can on all my platforms.
No, my brother moved to LA for about 3 months, and he was so excited because he got a job that was paying, I think, $16, $17 an hour. And again, he grew up in Florida. $16 to $17 an hour, this was 2 years ago, was great pay. He still couldn't pay rent. He literally had to leave LA, cancel his rent and everything. He just couldn't afford it, even with a job paying $16 an hour. And so, I mean, we are in Florida. It is getting more expensive here in Florida, but I know from stories I've had with Matt C, who lives out there in LA. Shout out to Matt C, and almost everybody else. The horror stories of what's going on. It's pretty rough. And I also liked one thing you talked about there is I think that a lot of people, and I think a lot of crypto people are not necessarily in this boat, but it's like the large majority of the United States citizens, they look at business owners and they're thinking about like the McDonald's and the Walmart and the they're looking at these guys with these massive profit margins and saying, you guys are just being really greedy. You guys can afford for things to be more expensive and not raise the price. But it's like, no, America is built on the backbone of the small business owner, the person who is taking that small margin to provide a service to people. And you're 100% right. As this supply goes up, I have lots of friends who own small businesses who their customers are coming at them kind of outraged, like, what the heck? This was so much cheaper last year. And he's like, listen, at some of this, I'm not even turning a profit. This is just so I can pay all the guys on my payroll and continue to put food on the table for my family. I'm not even really taking that much of a profit on this. I'm trying to keep it as cheap as possible. And prices are still upwards of 100% higher than what they were last year. So yeah, it is ridiculous.
One thing I want to add too is, like, when you're talking, like, people also have to understand some of these they look like corporations, but some people have franchises. So maybe you have a family that was like, saved up a little bit of money, like, we're going to buy a McDonald's franchise. So they go in with a couple other family members. So those are essentially still small businesses. Like, even though they have the brand recognition and they have, they've got the name and whatnot, it's still technically a small business. So when people get upset, it's very hard for me to see when people get upset in even at large corporations too. Like, I get some of them don't do what they're supposed to do. I'm not saying that they're all perfect, but at the same time, if we have the government that comes in and tells these large corporations what to do, even more so than what they're doing, it's really going to impact workers. And I feel like Americans are in a very, very hard spot right now, because it's like, we're so upset. We're feeling the pain. We're feeling all of our expenses going up, but it's like, there's no one to blame. And it's not that we did anything wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. I don't know about you guys, but we budget the household very, very, very strict over here. And, I know a lot of people that are living right. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And we have all of this inflation. We have materials costs go up, food costs go up, gas costs go up. And it's like a slap in the face, it feels like. Yeah. So I just had to express my opinions there.
Yes, no, I absolutely agree with you 100%. T-Shim, you had a thought?
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to speak to why, folks like Gareth Solway and other analysts, there's a big analyst over at Morningstar who's also calling the top of inflation in a sense, or saying that these numbers are going to cool down going and from here. And the reason that they're saying things like this at a time like this is because they're looking at oil and commodity prices. And I know you guys talked to this to some extent, but I wanted to just show you. So if you go over to my screen, the first one I have picked out, and keep in mind the big day is June. Is mid-June. So and June 13th specifically is where folks are kind of saying, was the major indication. So if you look at June 13th on this chart, this is where, and this is oil, this is where oil started to come down. So it's 20% off that June 13th day, and it's, let's see, it's 29% off of its highs, so 30%. So oil has retraced 30%, and then this is a ETF of commodities. So this is 24 different commodities, things like grain, things like orange juice, pig and cow, like beef, and that's down in 23% as well from its highs. So when they're saying inflation has peaked, it's because these are the major raw materials that go into the economy. Oil, most specifically, you can leave the screen now, but oil most specifically is extremely important because the transportation of any good to you inevitably has to go through gallons and gallons of gas, and the price coming down, even in the short term, it can dramatically impact inflation. And so while we definitely don't see that reflected in June's numbers, it started in June. It started in June 13th when these commodity and oil prices started to come down. So by the time we get the July numbers, you can only assume that it's not going to be at 9.1 anymore, or it's going to be lower. And so that's what they're citing, because up until now, these commodity prices have just skyrocketed. They've gone up quite a bit, and that has a lot to do with the conflict over Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine, and it has a lot to do with the current American executive branch being refusing to allow new drilling permits to U.S. oil companies, and today actually Biden is actually visiting Middle Eastern countries, and specifically Saudi Arabia, to discuss drilling further. So to try to convince them to expand their oil supply. So that will bring oil prices down if he's successful. But they won't bring them down immediately. It'll bring them down over the long term. But over the long term is exactly what the Fed is taking into consideration when they're assessing their Fed rate. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context to why these folks are bringing these arguments forward that inflation has met its peak and that we're not going to get these extremely accelerated numbers too much more into the future. Now, this trend could continue, though. The commodities could reverse, and they could come back and go much higher, which there are a lot of smart people who are calling for that as well.
Like I said, I think the one thing to look at, though, when we were breaking down yesterday what those CPI numbers reported, there is something that is different between the price of the commodity as just to produce it and then also the services. Because remember, when we were looking at that report, it kept saying that actually services, so fuel services and food services, those prices actually had decreased a little bit. That doesn't, there's two parts of producing any good. You got to, first of all, produce the good, and then you got to transfer the good and service the good. So maybe the gas prices might help lower some of the service costs. But I think what I'm still concerned about, and I want to see numbers come out to kind of get rid of, is it doesn't matter if we can get them to you cheaper. The problem is that all that inflation continued to make them more expensive to produce, and therefore that price is still going to be seen as commodity of those things go up. Because again, if I had to spend $100 to produce an orange tree normally, and then the price is shot up to $500 to produce an orange tree, well, guess what? Those oranges are going to be way more expensive. Even if the gas starts coming down and we can transport them more easily, those oranges will still be expensive. But let's go ahead and transition. I know, because Wendy, I'm going to be able to talk to you a little bit more on more of this over on Market Talks on Cointelegraph. So if any of you guys want to hear more about this conversation with Wendy, make sure you come join us at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What I want to do, and I know I saw a couple questions in chat specifically for you, so I wanted to get you to answer those, and then we'll close out with you, and I'll let you go, and we'll finish the show. But Elliot Locke, I think, gave two of them. One of them, he said, how would a traditional finance like Goldman Sachs purchase Celsius affect the crypto market? Being as traditional finance is hesitant to get into the crypto without regulation, would this be a bailout?
So I'm going to come at it from a different perspective. If I was Goldman Sachs, because there was reports that Goldman Sachs wanted to come out and buy Celsius, I believe, for $2 billion, something like that. But essentially that's still pennies on what Celsius is actually worth, supposedly. So this is all just speculation. But if we see a big company like Goldman Sachs that does in fact come in, rescue Celsius, whatever it is, they're really doing it to purchase the database, to purchase the user's data and the user's information. And that's a smart marketing move, depending on what they decide to do with the platform in the future. We don't know yet, but I would imagine that what they're going to do, if that was the case, which as of right now, we have no idea what's going to happen, you guys, no idea at all. This is all just speculation. So if they do come in and they do purchase the platform, things are going to change a lot, and they probably will be working with regulators to make sure that things are really on the up and up. And I think the most unfortunate thing about Celsius and Voyager is that they were supposed to be licensed and regulated to do all this stuff. So there's a whole lot of questions that I have about that. But at the same time, a lot of these traditional financial people, they're actually in crypto and Bitcoin, and they have been for a super, super, super long time. They do it under different entities. And if you talk to an OTC desk, they'll confirm this also. So these guys have been paying attention to crypto. They've been paying attention to Bitcoin. They just can't necessarily put a big name on it or put their names on it because of potential legal ramifications, because crypto is still not regulated, or we still are not given a guideline as to how we're supposed to pay our taxes, what is legal, what isn't legal, is this a commodity, is this security, whatnot.
Yeah.
We're going to move on with questions here, get through a couple more of them. This is kind of a joke question, and I guess you did a show the other day where you talked about this, but Elliot Locke wants to rub this in my face. He said, awesome to have you, Wendy O. Question, do you like pineapple on pizza?
Of course.
Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza, and I also really, really love black olive, pineapple, and then extra red sauce. I really do.
Wendy,
my daughter loves it too.
I thought we were starting to get along. I thought we were getting to be good friends.
We're good friends. I still love you. Still loving line. Still got big God bless. But I gotta.
I've
my
already
Sicilian
lost.
mother's not happy with me right now.
Smay and I were so close. We were bonded by a lot of things. One of them was our disdain for pineapple on pizza, and he has been turned to the dark side. He is now a fan of pineapple on pizza. So
That's right.
I'm starting to interact
That's
with
right.
more of these people who are just pulling my loved ones away from me. Smay, that's what's keeping you out of the top 5 of my favorite people right now. You were up there, and then the pineapple came in.
Does it help that I don't like Hawaiian pizza? Because I don't like
helps.
ham on pizza.
I like ham though, so that's it doesn't. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Maybe that I was hoping that might have been like an olive branch I could reach out to you, but it seems like you're stuck in your ways.
Let's keep going on before I get depressed about this. Crypto Set Guy said, "Can anyone tell me why the cost of living is so high in California/New England compared to other places in the U.S.? Not a loaded question, just curious."
Yeah, so it's very expensive to live in California because the current administration they love to throw a tax on everything. And the reason why they do that is they say it's going to all of these different social programs, but in reality, it's not going to the social programs. Our schools are a 3 out of a 10. Our roads are a mess. They've been doing construction on the same freeway for probably over a decade with nothing done at all. Another important thing to understand is that when Los Angeles County, when they do want to go ahead and do construction bids, and I'm sure that this happens everywhere too, but what they do is they use specialized contractors. So for example, my daughter's father cannot actually put a bid in to do a city job because there's special qualifications that you need. So they only allow a certain few contractors to actually put in bids for this. And what they do is instead of the job cost, like let's say you bid the job, it's going to be $1 million job. What they're actually charging taxpayers to finish this job through the city is like $3 million. So these people actually make a whole lot of money. There's a lot of corruption that happens behind the scenes, a lot of money that's being thrown around, but it's not going to the right places. And in addition, we do get a lot of people from outside of LA, outside of California that move here because we've got high paying jobs, we've got great weather. And what happens, and a lot of them do want to join the entertainment industry. So what happens is they'll save up a specific amount of money, they'll come to California and they'll try to get in the entertainment industry or whatever it is. And what happens is they're just renting out of anywhere and they will go to the nicer areas or the places that look nice and they'll pay those high rents. So what happens is it drives up the rent costs and the mortgage costs all over that particular area. So that's what we're seeing. And that's why if you look like the deeper you get into LA, that's why it's so much more expensive to live there than it is other areas. But it's a big culmination of things, but most of it is the irresponsible spending that our outstanding governor has done.
Yeah, and all the more reason, in case anyone needed another reason to say that Bitcoin needs to be the future of currency, is because even though it's pretty obvious and easy to see that how politicians are corrupted and manipulate the money, there's no way to really keep them accountable and to track that money correctly because of the way the current fiat currency is being utilized. When we have trackable money through cryptocurrency, that should all be put to sleep.
Why do you think that's why we don't have a CBDC yet? Why don't you think that they've been pro crypto in the United States, especially California? Probably the most unfortunate aspect of California is that we were this big tech giant that was anybody who came to California for tech. So if we're so bullish on tech and we support tech and we've got Silicon Valley and all these really great, intelligent people here, why don't we have positive crypto regulation? Why haven't we fostered some sort of regulation to allow people to continue to build? Because let's face it, the public servants of the United States of America, they want money, they want revenue. And the way that they get this is through our taxpayer dollars. So why not? And again, you guys, I don't like regulation. I don't like the idea of crypto being regulated, but I have to play the devil's advocate because it is what it is. It's coming whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
So to me, it makes no sense. Why don't we foster this? Why don't we put out positive regulation so people can build and grow and then tax them? They don't want to do that. And it's very, very problematic, extremely problematic for me.
Well, Wendy, we're going to save the other questions. I'm going to save those to the end of the show. But I want to thank you for coming on this morning, being with us. I loved having you. Hopefully we get you on here again very, very soon. But before we let you go, where can people find you if they want to go follow you? I know I've seen you all over Twitter and TikTok and YouTube, but where else can people find you?
So I actually have a free newsletter and I highly recommend that you guys subscribe to it. The guys that I have hired to write for me have done an absolute amazing job. We talk about cold storage. We talk about the different technicals of different project, not price action with these projects, but we're actually talking about how they're built, why it's important and why that technology could be, you know, the next whatever it is. So we do a lot of really good stuff for their website is cryptowendio.com. I will never email you. I will never DM you ever. If you want to get a hold of me, drop me an email. That would be great. But I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube as well. So if you guys want to subscribe and support me, great. If not, send in love and light.
Just to clarify, Wendy, you don't have an offering where if we send you a Bitcoin, you'll turn into 2 and then send that back to us?
No, I'll probably turn it into half a Bitcoin because I live. I'm just kidding, guys. No, don't send it. And you guys, please do not send anybody money on the internet ever. And if somebody has like, just don't send anybody money or personal information, and don't stay out of private DMs with people too. Stay out of those because it could be scary. And please don't click on any types of links. And if you can, really quick OPSEC trick, try to have 2 cell phones, one for crypto stuff and one for your personal stuff. And don't keep your crypto stuff on the one that you use for personal stuff because there's a larger chance that you could get hacked, phished, and lose all your crypto. So please be safe out there.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much. If we don't already have all those links down in the description, we're going to get those on here very, very soon. Wendy, I'll see you here in a couple of hours over on Cointelegraph.
All right. Sending y'all love and light. Bye-bye.
All right. See ya. Well, yeah, we're going to transition here. We normally do TA at the beginning, but again, I wanted to get Wendy in here, be conscious of her time so she could prepare and stuff. But before we get there, you know, we normally do our sponsors early in the show, and I'm going to take the L on this one. I forgot, and Smade does not like that. I forgot to do it. But I'm going to do them right now because we have 2. And they're very, very correlated, so I'm going to be able to transition this well. And I just want to say, I say it every single show, but again, I want to really stress to you guys how grateful I am for these sponsors. Again, we would not be here being able to spend time with you guys each and every morning if it weren't for them. And they are phenomenal, phenomenal businesses. One of them is Hedge, and you guys have heard me talk about Hedge, but just in case you're new here and just in case you've never heard of Hedge, it is a phenomenal tool to help you be paid in cryptocurrency. And yes, I know crypto is low, and yes, I know people are freaked out. But guess what? Would you rather be paid in Bitcoin when Bitcoin's sitting at 19,000 or 69,000? I would rather at 19,000 because that's going to accumulate. So this is the perfect time to start getting a portion of your paycheck in Bitcoin. Hedge is the way to do that. It makes it set up right with your bank account so that a portion or maybe all of your pay. I don't know what you want to do. It's up completely to you what you want to do with your money, but you get a portion of your paycheck from your business in crypto. Make sure you sign up with the link down in the description below. And the other side of that, as we're talking about money, some of you guys are going to be making hands over fists of money, and you might need some help making sure you treat your taxes correctly and you handle that money correctly. You're going to want a CPA, so I'm so happy to announce we have a partnership with Anthony, who is one of the best CPAs out there. He doesn't just handle your regular currency, like meaning the US dollar. He also deals with cryptocurrency and gets rid of those headaches to save you as much money as possible so you don't have to pay Uncle Sam a penny over what you really do have to. Again, there's a link in the description down below. You'll hear more about him and from him in the future, but he is a phenomenal, phenomenal CPA. You don't want to miss it out. So again, thank you to our 2 sponsors for this show. Smay, before I transition, you got a thought?
Tim, you know what I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put this out there. I think I'm going to go sign up for Hedge.
You going to sign up for Hedge?
I think I'm going to go sign up for Hedge.
I've been telling you to do it.
You know why I want to sign up for Hedge?
Why?
Tim? Because I love the idea of getting paid in Bitcoin. That is such a great thrilling thing. So guys, join me as I go on this journey of being paid in Bitcoin, and you too can be paid in Bitcoin with Hedge. In the link in the description. Thank you. Back to you, Tim.
Boom. Boom, sausage. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. T-Stream, real quick, before we even jump into the charts, what was your overall thoughts of everything we talked about with Wendy?
I thought it was really good. I think she brings a really good, fresh perspective to crypto. It was one of the things that she mentioned with Goldman Sachs buying up Celsius. Yeah, I had never thought about, they probably want the user data that Celsius is being able to hoover up. But what I read was that Goldman Sachs was also going to buy it because the way that Celsius had written their terms of services was extremely favorable to Celsius, the entity, because in theory, if Goldman Sachs was to buy it, they can make an argument legally that all of the users' money is theirs. But I think that that's probably too aggressive of a stunt. Celsius is too public of an entity for Goldman Sachs to do that. They would just get death threats, till the end of days. So who knows? We'll see. But that's definitely still on the table because and we've done videos on this, but there's a big difference between being an investor in Celsius, the entity, like owning Celsius, the company, and utilizing its lending services. When you're utilizing the lending services that are promising you upwards of 10% APY, which Celsius absolutely was, you are the service. You are you're the product to the investors of Celsius, and the investors of Celsius are the first ones to get paid out for their investment into that entity, and the last people to get paid out are the product, are the end users of that service. So it's just something to think about why Goldman Sachs would be interested in buying it, because they would be able to take all that money and whatever legal outcome, they would probably end up having to pay very, very little to the users.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, we're going to transition. Let's look at the charts real quick. Again, today was a little bit different. Bitcoin up 19,800. So again, earlier on the show, we were talking about 19.7. You guys can see that green wick right there in the latest 4-hour candle. Notice where we're bouncing right now. So again, we dropped below this ascending level of support, then we rallied back above it. Of course, this wick and all the news being baked in from the CPI numbers. We bottomed out right there around 18.9, rallied all the way up over 20. We're back down at that support level right there. A couple things I want to notice. I did think, I said this a couple days ago, I did think that if that CPI number was at 8.8 or higher, that I thought that we were going to dip down into those lower $18,000 levels as we wait for the next 2 weeks for our FOMC meeting to come out. But a couple things I want to point out. I'm not ready to call it quits on that. I will say I'm happy. I'm very happy that we didn't drop immediately, and I still would like to see Bitcoin go ahead and rally. You guys see the title of this video. We're holding tight. This surprised me. Bitcoin is holding tight right there above 19,000, above 19.5 even at this point. The question is, can we mount a rally, or is that dip just going to come a little bit later? So let's go ahead and, you guys know I've been talking about this chart here for a little bit. Let's go out to our daily chart. And, let's look at these numbers. Again, for those of you who have never seen this before, I made this earlier this week, and this is the history of our CPI numbers in blue, and then the FOMC meeting reports that they decided what the interest rate hike would be is signified with the green arrows. And you guys are going to notice these numbers I talked about ever since we had this one right here, the 8.5 that came out in April, talking about March. It seems like every single report has resulted in bearish activity. But I did notice when I scrolled in on this, and this is the daily chart, is that it didn't always necessarily happen immediately. You guys are going to see it happened right here on the 12th of April. The report came out that our inflation was at 8.5, but you're going to notice that day it actually was green. The next day it was green, and it actually took a couple of days before we started to dip down, and then we had that bearish report from our FOMC meeting and Jerome Powell, and that's when we actually started, paired with this is the time period that the news on Terra Luna came out. Paired with that information, that is when we saw that dip down below 30,000. We went all the way, wicked down to 25 after the report of 8.3. And then we started a slow little ascend before the 8.6 number came out in June. And then, of course, that day, this is the time where we didn't have to wait for any bullish movement. We just went ahead and dropped. But you will notice that based off these numbers, if you're looking at the days they happened, before the dip happened, we actually do see green candles. So this is a case where we do not see a green candle, but the 0.75, when the Fed finally said, all right, guys, inflation's out of control, we got to do something. We actually at first saw some bullish movement on those candles before the big red ones. Right here, we saw one red candle followed by two red candles followed by 3 green before we started to move sideways. Over here, we saw a green candle before red. Over here, we saw 2 green before we saw red. As a whole, just because we have not dipped yet, I'm not ready to call it that the market is not going to have a little bit of a bath. Again, I'm hoping we can avoid going all the way down to 12.5. It's not like that gives me a lot of pleasure. I will tell you this, though. I am keeping money on the side, so if we see numbers that low, I'm going to take a bad situation and find some good in it, because even though I'm already, that was one of the big things, and I'm going to say this because I don't want to sound like bragging. I'm just super proud of myself that I was able to, in this last couple of months, through trading and through finding some bottoms, I was able to finally become a whole coiner. When I first purchased back in 2020, I purchased $5,000 worth of Bitcoin at an $11,000 price. So I didn't quite get to 50%. I didn't get quite to 50% of a coin, but I slowly have been accumulating. And guess what? even though my portfolio in US dollars is going to look low if the price dips down to 12.5, that is a golden opportunity to finish off. I've already become a whole coiner. Now my goals are set at 2 coiners. I think with that opportunity, I have enough cash right now. I got to do some math on my portfolio, but I could walk out of this with 2 whole Bitcoin on top of my Cardano holdings, which a lot of you guys know through trading throughout this dip. Yeah, that portfolio in US dollars doesn't look very impressive, but I have doubled my Cardano holdings. I have doubled almost my Ethereum holdings. These are the opportunities, as painful as they are to my bank account, as painful as they are to my portfolio, as painful as they are to my gut, because it just does not feel good when the prices dip down. They are opportunities that we can take advantage of. So I'm still on the tank, guys. Do not fall for a trap. Just because we are not free falling after this number does not mean that Bitcoin won't go there. There's actually maybe potentially some precedents that's similar to what we had over here back in April, where we got that 8.5 number and then kind of trickled sideways into the downside before the Fed announcement in 2 weeks. There's a potential. Maybe we do hover. Maybe we just kind of move sideways over here for 2 weeks. But I just still, at this point, I have not seen the evidence come out to make me feel confident that we are going to survive and that 17.5 was the bottom. I do think another bottom is coming. And again, I want to make sure you guys understand this is not financial advice. You guys do what is best for you. Continue to do your own research. Use this channel as one of your resources just to hear opinions. But I'm telling you right now, and I think there's a lot of people that agree with me, I am not ready to start buying Bitcoin and calling the bottom is in. I love Gareth. I love that he's saying that we've kind of hit this inflation peak, that this is the highest number we're going to see. If anything, it's just going to start moving sideways. I don't think I got to see that one before I believe it. At this point, I still think there's so much bearish pressure on the market. The other thing about this whole situation, I put this on my Twitter this morning. You guys know Twitter was down, but then it came back up. The other thing to watch for, and we have a little bit of volume coming in here more recently, but that's still just not a whole heck of a lot of volume. After the volume candle that we had during the hour and the next 2 hours, volume has continued to stay low, meaning traders even are really not touching this very much. So I'd love to see that improve. There, right now we're mounting a green candle on the hourly chart. Could that volume begin to spike up just a little bit more? Potentially, in which case we'll have to talk about that either later today or tomorrow and analyze what's happening there. But as it stands right now, I'm not impressed with the volume. I don't think the market is completely done with the decision it wants to make based off of that news. We might just have to wait a couple of days before we see it. So again, that wasn't a long period of TA for today. Today was a different day. Loved having Wendy on the show. What's something I didn't mention in the midway point, which I really should have, is, hey, let's go ahead and smash that like button. We had 1,000 people. We're still close to about 1,000 people on here. We got 417 likes. I know we can get that probably, let's say, 700. YouTube doesn't seem to be helping us out today with that glitch. But we can get up to 700 likes.
I think we can get up to 800.
You think 800, Smay?
I think we can. Hey, listen. I'm going to have a heart-to-heart with you guys real quick.
Yeah.
Hit that like button, okay? It helps me feel good about myself. It helps Tim feel good about himself. It helps T-Shroom feel – well, T-Shroom always feels good about himself no matter what. He's not a very
always
volatile guy.
Feeling
so what I need you guys to do is I need you guys to hit that like button. Let's get to 800 likes so I feel good about myself. Back to you, Tim.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go and start wrapping this one out. Reminder. So today – we're going to have an afternoon video coming out, but at 12 o'clock, I will be on again with Wendy O over on Cointelegraph. Don't miss that interview. We're going to go even deeper and ask more specific questions about everything happening in the market right now when it comes to what those CPI numbers meant and what we could be expecting for the future. Then tonight, I will be on Around the Blockchain. I'm super excited. It's my first time ever. I think I'm going to win. In which case I've already promised my shout out for winning Around the Blockchain is going to be a shout out to Smay, the #1 technical director in all of YouTube, specifically the crypto channels. And then I'll also be on Debate Crypto this evening at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, where they're doing TA Thursdays. I'm going to be on with a panel of other technical analysts. Don't miss any of that content. Real quick update before we go. I do know tomorrow is the winner of the HODL Trophy, and some people are asking who's going to win. So let's remember our price predictions. T-Shroom had the highest one of 20,000, and at the moment, I do think if price continues just to move sideways, that's a surprise win right there, T-Shroom. You went with your gut. You said the price is just going to hover. It definitely looks like that's exactly what is happening. But if the price dips at all, my number was 18,200, and then Smay, for I think the 10th week in a row, is the lowest predictor, sitting at about 17.7.
Yes.
Because you wanted the 500 lower than me.
Yes.
Tune in tomorrow to see who wins that. I did forget, guys, and I'll have to go back and read these. We do have some super chats. T-shirt, the ones that I missed earlier, because I see this one more recently from Matt C. Let's read those ones that were earlier back when Wendy was still on the show.
Yeah, so Travel Tim donated $5 and said, move from Seattle to Puerto Rico. Seattle is becoming the next big tech hub. Way too expensive to live for the middle class. That sounds about right. Microsoft headquarters are there, and there's I think Starbucks. Never been to Seattle. It's a city I kind of do want to visit, but you don't want to.
No, sorry, I didn't mean like that. I mean, I haven't been there. I've never been west of Colorado.
Oh, you got to go west.
I got to get there, man. I know Matt. I have an outstanding invitation to Matt's house.
I've been to the west.
Yeah, you've been to LA.
I've been to LA. I've been to Las Vegas.
Okay.
I've been to.
I feel like
that's
we're getting
about
into
it.
bragging territory.
That's about it.
I've been to Salt Lake, Sacramento. I've been to LA. I've never been to Las Vegas. I've been to Portland.
Las
before
Vegas
it became
is
a
dope.
war
I kind of want
zone.
to go back.
Anyway, and then we got two more. Seymour donated $2. Said no decoupling. Both markets are traded by human emotion. So that's true in the short term. It's not true in the long term, especially when you get fundamental news that comes out. All right, and then you got Matt C.
Yeah. You guys are doing a great job. We all appreciate it. This is for Tim's energy drink to power through this monster day. Thank you, Matt. I definitely will probably be smashing a couple of those energy drinks, maybe getting some coffee. I have a rule that I don't drink caffeine after 1 p.m. That rule might change today. We will see. But that is all we have for today's show. Reminder, coming back tomorrow. You guys will be here tomorrow. And I want to remind you, new tradition. Fridays are positive Fridays, so come ready with positive chat. Come ready to contribute to a great, uplifting, encouraging community. We love all of you guys. Elliot just said, great show. I understand not getting to my question today. There's always tomorrow. The pineapple pizza comment makes up for it. LOL. Love you, Tim. Elliot, we will do our best to get there tomorrow. He had a great question, but I'm going to make you have to come back tomorrow to hear it. With that being said, guys, I will see you in a lot of other videos today. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good